I was telling me that I just moved yesterday to a new house. Like, my whole living room is boxes. So I said I'm going to be a zombie for this presentation. And she said, well, that's appropriate, just before Halloween. So, okay, as long as you guys are on board, we're cool. So anyway, yeah, I think the tip of what, I mean, you know, you can sit there and go, has this degree, that degree, whatever. But I like to think of, and I'm sorry to be sitting here, but like I said, it's I think a lot of why I am who I am, and you know, just the kind of formation of my philosophy, I guess, for lack of a better word, is being keiki hanauka, you know, child of the land, and also really early on questioning what I call kind of enforced identity, how people in Hawaii, how you're expected to be a certain way. And certainly the tourism industry or visitor industry has fed into that. Luckily with national parks and all, that's changing quite a bit. But certainly when I was growing up, it was very obvious that there was sort of a conceived notion of what it is to be from Hawaii and what it is to be local. And so what started to get me, you know, eventually is just looking at, you know, my years working at Bishop Museum, starting to hear a lot of people going, oh, you guys stole all our stuff from, you know, the outer islands and everything. And, you know, you can look at it several ways. I did my dissertation on Bishop Museum, and part of what I looked at is how it is so unique in the formation of museums compared to, say, a lot of the Smithsonian and Museum of Natural History and places like that in New York, in that it was actually conceived and brought together the collections of Ali'i. So the Ka'iolani collection, Lili'u's collection, all of those are housed and were given by the Ali'i to Charles Reed Bishop, who formulated it for his wife. So I think it's a little bit different. Now, that's not to say that Bishop Museum hasn't had all those years of, you know, kind of perceived sort of elitism and things like that have gone on. But it is, it was a wonderful experience working there. I always say my years there, I learned more than I ever did in grad school. And, you know, you're on the spot. But I also felt very strongly about several things. One of them being I didn't feel Hawaiians should have to pay. It's I don't know what it is now, it was $19. So I had this little deal going, hopefully nobody's here from Bishop, with one of our front desk people. Auntie Lucy would call me, she'd go, oh, Momi, your guests are here. Because they watch the front desk people like hawks, you know. But I could come down and go, oh, hello, you know, and let this family in for free or whatever. And it was, you know, my little sneaky way of sort of doing that. And then later on I got a Fulbright to go to Aotearoa and to look at the bicultural model in museums. And that was a real wake-up too. Not just looking at like the concept of the kaitiaki, the Maori curator, taking care of Maori pieces and all that, but the way spirituality was dealt with in museums. And that's the big thing with me, is you know, concepts of mana and treating things with respect and all. And so that was a real eye-opener to see how they were transitioning. And that was right when Te Papa Tongareva was being formulated in 1990. And so I sat in on a lot of the planning meetings, and that was, you know, kind of exciting to hear what they were planning. So anyway, you know, as I come to the end of my career, I feel that you know, this was kind of my swan song, as we call it, to try to formulate this heritage center. And so I feel extremely lucky. We're really a shoestring budget. Everything else, in fact, I don't really have a budget. it's kind of me begging. And so you'll see that things are very creatively sort of put together. I want to acknowledge Marie Kinchla. She is my left-hand woman here with, she does all our tech, photoshopping, taking my wild ideas and trying to kind of put them together a little bit better. And also Nicole Garcia over here. And Nicole's one of the grad students in the program. Tracy, you've got your students here, and it's fabulous. Really, really love the philosophy, and I'm kind of adjunct faculty to the master's program in heritage management, is that it's so community oriented, and that's, you know, that's just fabulous. And Nicole just got back from Illinois. She's doing a project now on Camp Tarawa, the Marine camp up in Waimea, but not so much rah-rah, because these are the guys that went to Iwo Jima and stuff. More, what was the impact of this little town of under 500 people suddenly having 40 to 50,000 Army and then Marines come through? How did that impact, you know, aside from a lot of hoppa babies around? You know, how did that impact? So do you want to say anything about, one of the things I think is, I mean, to be able to go and, and actually meet some of the Iwo Jima survivors is pretty cool, and that's really what, you know, what the emphasis is in your folks' programs. So.
Yeah, that's, you just said it. It was, I'm focused on the local community, but I felt very honored to be amongst these survivors of Iwo Jima, and they invited me to come and present my work to them. So it was their annual reunion, and there were about 15 of them, and the youngest one is 93, and that's about the youngest age of anybody because he was actually 16 when he enlisted. So that's the bottom age of these men, and they're still meeting every year as much as they can, and so to be invited to be a part of, be there for them and with them was, for, I think we were together for about 5 days. I was gone for about 2 weeks, but it was very cool to be there with them and to present what I'm doing here. And they acknowledge that it's about the local community, and they have the memories of things that went on here, and usually they're pretty silly memories, but it's they're there and they like what I'm doing, and they're interested to see where it goes. If they, you know, who knows if any of them will ever make it back over here, but I'm working to get it all digitized so they can see the photos and things like that from when they were here.
So that just gives you an example.
But I'm working all out of here, so.
Yes, yeah. And we have, I have another student, Leilani Waldron, that's working on the Dr. Okada collection that we have, and I have 2 volunteers at the moment. It's very, as you know, very difficult to keep volunteers. But I lucked out with a couple of people that have been very, very valuable. And anyway, I just want to read you guys a quote real quickly, and because it really kind of hits on my philosophy. One sign of a healthy community is its simultaneous ability to preserve and invent its culture. That is, to conserve its history and heritage while developing new expressions for current times. And I think that's really important in the sense of oftentimes we look at culture or heritage as something static. Maybe, you know, like Hawaiian culture was always as it was when Captain Cook pulled into Kealakekua Bay in 1778. No, it's always evolving. It's still evolving. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember how many years ago it was, but went to see Pagan Pride that the Kanakaolis put on at UH Hilo. Really good presentation, yeah. And afterwards, my friend that I went with said to me, "Do you think that was Hawaiian?" And I said, "Yeah." I mean, if you know some of their stuff, I mean, it's like, you know, really unusual chanting, wonderful costumes that are, you know, really out there. And it's a continuation, but we get into this thing of it's not authentic, it's not, you know, because we have this preconceived notion, again, oftentimes with the visitor industry, or Merry Monarch, or whatever, as to what that should be. So anyway, that's just an example of kind of that perpetuation and the fact that we're constantly evolving. And I'm gonna hopefully give you some examples here as we go. I hope you can see, if not, okay. We're gonna wanna hit a light or two, I think. We just had, as you can see, it's not bad housekeeping, but we just had a big event here, that's perfect, last night. And it drew in, somebody was saying like 600?
At least.
Yeah, people from our community. I mean, you know, we've been here for, the Heritage Center's been happening for about 7 years. And so many people that came in had no idea that we were here. And that's pretty typical. I mean, I'm sure you guys get that at Code Historical and elsewhere. They go, oh, we didn't know this existed. So, you know, it takes a haunted house to bring people out. Everything. I mean, I think this big sign on the side of the building could be a hit. But so we're part of NHERC, the North Hawaii Education and Research Center. So we are part of UH Hilo. And by the way, I actually graduated from UH Hilo. I did my first 3 years at Manoa and then moved to the Big Island, much to my parents' like, oh! and lived down at Kealakekua Bay for a couple of years. And then when we moved to Waimea, I was able to commute. So yeah, so I finished my last year at Hilo. But so it feels like a little bit of, you know, sort of coming home too. This is the old hospital, and so, you know, we need to kind of acknowledge that because I can't tell you how many people come in and go, I was born here. You know, not here, but in the building next door. And so the original hospital had just this, this upper section here, and this was all empty down below, and so they enclosed it. And it has its problems. I mean, every footstep from